everybody, Mr. Robert here, and Dude the Wonder Dog is with me, and this morning I'm going to attempt to tell you the story of Little Red Riding Hood. So here goes. Once upon a time, there was a pretty little girl named Colleen who lived with her mother in the village near the forest. It was the forest right here. And their grandmother, let me introduce you to grandmother, lived in the woods right near the village. So they were a close-knit family. And on Colleen's 10th birthday, Grandma sewed her a bright red velvet hood on her bright red velvet cloak, which is like a coat. And Colleen just loved it. She wore it every day, and everyone in the village, everybody, called her Little Red Riding Hood. And she loved the nickname because she loved her red velvet cloak, and she loved the nickname. And so one day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother said to her, "Little Red Riding Hood, would you go visit grandmother who hasn't been feeling well? Take her a basket of goodies. I put a loaf of bread, some sweet butter, and a bottle of wine in the basket. So you go off to grandma's." Red Riding Hood said, "Oh, I'd love to, Mother. I love my grandma." And she started out on the path. It was about an hour's walk into the forest. She'd been walking about a half an hour when she met a big, old, sly, and hungry wolf. And if we learned anything from the Three Pigs story, you can't trust an old, sly, hungry wolf. So the minute the wolf saw Little Red Riding Hood, he was putting a plan together in his head. But he said, "Hello, Little Red Riding Hood, what are you doing today?" "Oh, I'm off to grandmother's to bring her a basket to lift her spirits. I've got some goodies in my basket." "Well, that sounds like a good idea." And the wolf is thinking, Little Red Riding Hood's going to make a great dessert after I gobble up her grandma. Because he'd had his eye on grandma for a while, meaning to gobble her up. So the wolf said, "That's a splendid idea. You might want to pick some of those pretty flowers and add them to the basket." "Oh, that's a wonderful idea." So Red Riding Hood started picking flowers, and the wolf raced ahead to Grandma's cottage, where he came to the door and knocked upon it. And Grandma from inside said, "Who is it?" The wolf, pretending to be Red Riding Hood, said, "It is me, Red Riding Hood, Grandma. I've brought you a basket of goodies to help lift your spirits." Grandma said, "Oh, dear child, please do come in. Just lift the latch on the door and come right over to my bed." The wolf, pretending to be Red Riding Hood, came in, went over to Grandma's bed, and gobbled her up. One gulp, one swallow. And he said to himself, "That's good eating right there." So to continue his plan, he put on one of Grandma's nightgowns and a shawl which goes around your shoulders, and he even put on one of those old-time bed hat that old ladies used to wear a long time ago at bedtime. One of those white lace. Oh, I'll show you. Yeah, there's the wolf in Grandma's bed. So he waited for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive at the cottage, and it wasn't very long. Red Riding Hood arrived, and the door was open a little bit, which she thought was odd. So she stuck her head in the cottage door. "Grandmother, it's Red Riding Hood. I brought you a basket of goodies." "Oh, do come in, dear child. Come over to my bed." So Red Riding Hood went inside the cottage over to the bed and looked down. "Oh, Grandmother, what big hairy ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear," said Grandma. "Oh, grandmother, what great big black shiny eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "Oh, grandmother, what big white shiny sharp teeth you have." And the wolf threw back the covers and said, "All the better to eat you with, my dear," and gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood, one swallow, one gulp. So his belly is out to here, I'm telling you. So the wolf, that was his plan. Now he thought, well, I think I'll take a nap on Grandma's bed. My belly is so full that I'm tired. So he lay down on Grandma's bed, and to help him go to sleep, he sang himself a little song. "Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood, you sure did taste real good. You're everything that a big bad wolf could want. Ow!" And he fell fast asleep. Not the end of the story, though. Close by, out in the woods, was a woodcutter. And he was friends with Grandma, and he thought to himself, I think I'll go check on Grandma, see how she's feeling today. So he went up to the cottage door, and it was open a little bit, and he stuck his head in, then he stepped inside the cottage, and there was the wolf on Grandma's bed, sound asleep. And the wolf's belly was way big, and the woodcutter knew exactly what had happened. He took out his hunting knife and cut the wolf's belly open, and the first thing he saw was a red velvet hood and cloak. And he cut a little more, and out jumped Red Riding Hood, not a scratch on her, good as new. So the woodcutter knew that Grandma must still be in there, so he cut a little more of the wolf's belly, and out jumped Grandma, not a scratch on her, good as new. And so they were all happy. It ends up a happy ending, but the woodcutter did something nice. He stitched up the wolf's belly, sewed him up, and made him promise never to hurt or bother anyone again. And he took him up to the highest mountain outside the forest and let him go. And that wolf never bothered or hurt anyone again forever. And that's the end of Red Riding Hood's story. There you have it. So thanks for your time, guys. It's Mr. Robert and Dude the Wonder Dog signing off from La Pintoresca Library. And thanks to everyone behind the scenes, and thanks to Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs for their song. And see you soon with another story. Say bye. Say bye, dude.